But if we can keep the fetus in a fluid-filled environment, we can give it more time to develop its lungs, and therefore we can dramatically increase survival rates at the cusp of viability. This emerging reproductive biotechnology has many names, including the artificial womb, artificial amniotic and placental technologies, etc., depending on how much of the gestational period is taken over by technology. There are various prototypes and different designs being trialled around the world. We've had tank-like models with arteriovenous pump systems used in animal trials since the 1990s, and we now have fluid-filled biobags being trialled in the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and Tohoku University in Japan, to name a few. Scientists generally believe there are 3 technical obstacles we need to overcome to achieve artificial gestation. The first is the need to create a 3-dimensional shell for implantation and gestation to occur. Our second challenge is a replacement for amniotic fluid, and this is an obstacle we've already overcome through the use of synthetic substitutes. But the third technical obstacle is by far the most challenging: providing nutrients and oxygen to the developing fetus. In other words, finding a system to replace the placenta. We have a variety of different models being discussed, including miniaturized oxygenators and extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, or ECMO. And this would continue to be the case even if we developed a way to facilitate this process through the birth canal. However, the possibility does yield a lot of interesting questions for us to think about. We know from IVF studies that we can keep an embryo alive in a petri dish for a number of days, and legal restrictions often limit that to 14 days. We have no data on how an embryo might cope being put in an artificial womb for its entire gestational period. Full ectogenesis would provide more options for those who would otherwise bear the burden of gestation. And those burdens are social, economic, physiological, and psychological. It could also yield a number of benefits for fetuses by providing an environment where we can optimize oxygenation, temperature, and nutrition, while also protecting against toxic exposures, diseases, and the effects of dietary deficiencies. So why may we not want to develop this technology? While it could make a fundamental contribution to sexual equality in reproduction, it also has the risk of exacerbating existing inequalities between people. In these futuristic tales, we often see we have lightsabers and tricorders, but before we can convert a positive vision of this technology into reality, we need to ask ourselves some really hard questions, particularly regarding what role do we want technology to play in society and our conception of family. When it comes to ectogenesis, we need to ask, do we want this technology? If so, who should have access to it? Who should pay? And what kind of limits do we think are reasonable when we are looking at why we want to use this technology?